Hey up, I'm Mary and this is my second vlog in my hashtag fashion series. And by that I mean I'm doing a series right now where I'm trying to figure out my look as an artist and honestly it is a scary process. If you haven't watched the first video, I'd encourage you to watch that video. I really explain why I'm going on this journey in that video and kind of the psychology behind it, the thought process behind it. So please do watch that. I put this disclaimer in that video, but I'm going to put it here as well. I'm not a fashionista, fashion designer, fashion stylist, makeup artist, hair stylist. I do not work in this industry. I'm just going on a voyage, trying to figure stuff out. Feels less like I'm on some sort of safe, solid boat structure and more like I'm slowly sinking and drowning in an endless sea of conflicting information. But nonetheless, I'm right now on a journey and I'd love for you to come along with me. This video is about a whole lot of fashion rules and or tips. Different people seem to kind of put them forward in different ways. They're all kind of, I think, suggestions that I tried to implement, honestly. I tried really hard to implement. I feel like I'm trying to get schooled. I'm trying to learn. I'm trying to figure this stuff out. It's not something I've spent an immense amount of time thinking about. So I'm going out there and trying to get information. And the information really, I mean, some of it seems straightforward. A lot of it seems restrictive. Anyway, I'll take you through this video and you'll see all these different tips, how to go about figuring stuff out regarding them, and also how I kind of took it, tried to implement it myself, and what the final end result was. The first category I'm going to look at with these tips, I'm just going to stick with calling them tips because rules, I don't like that, but let's call it tips for now, even though some people refer to them as rules. Colors. Colors is the first category. And one of the first things I stumbled upon that appears to be quite important to a lot of people in this fashion world is skin tone. Whether you have a warm or a cool skin tone. The reason why you want to know this is because unlike your hair color or your nail color or what you're wearing upon your body, you cannot change your skin. Your skin is going to be on your skin or your organs. You know what I mean? It's going to be on you all the time. So you want to wear things and dress yourself in a way, dye your hair in a way, put makeup on your face in a way that will flatter your skin so you can look healthy and glowy and all the good things. And that's the kind of reasoning behind looking into your skin tone. So warm or cool skin tone, there's actually three. There's warm, neutral, which is in the middle, and cool skin tones. Warm is kind of more yellowy, cool is more pinky, and neutral's in the middle. It's kind of hard to figure out what you are. There is a few tips that people did give out on ways to do this. One of the main ones is looking at the veins on your wrist in natural light. If they are kind of teal, blue, greeny color, then you are more likely to be warm toned. If they're more like purpley, blue color, then you're more likely to be cool toned. And if you have no idea what's going on, it's somewhere in the middle, you're potentially neutral toned or dead. I don't know. So that's one of the main ways of going about it. Other suggestions included looking at the patterns on your eyes, holding up a white piece of paper beside your skin and seeing whether your skin suddenly looks more pink or yellow, or deciding what sort of jewelry you wear. Apparently, if you wear more gold, you're more likely to be warm toned. If you wear more silver, you're more likely to be cool toned. This is my number one method that I found that has been phenomenally great. If you are a noob or you're looking at your veins going like, they look like veins, they kind of had the blue and the purple and the green and the, oh, what is that? Then in that case, use my method. Trust me, foolproof. Find yourself a makeup store and ask the people there what foundation they would recommend for your skin. You can even just ask them straight out. Do I have warm tone or cool tone skin? And if you've got people that work within the makeup industry, they're most likely to know what they're doing. If they put the foundation on your face and it looks wrong, go to somebody else. The MAC Cosmetics brand is great because they literally label their various foundations as NC, which is not cool, like warm, or NW, which is not warm, cool. That's not actually what that acronym means, but nonetheless, if you go to a MAC cosmetic store, you can find out very easily whether you're warm or cool toned if they know what they're doing. And this honestly worked for me perfectly. I went to a cosmetic store, a MAC cosmetic store. The lady then knew exactly what she was doing. Within like literally 20 seconds, I realized I was warm toned because she wasn't looking at any of the cool toned foundations for me. She was looking only at the warm toned ones. And when she put them on my face, they were the same color as my face, which is great. So that's how I found that out. Now, the reason why this is useful to know is, again, to flatter your skin. But the way you use this is supposedly if you have more warm tones to your skin, then you want to wear more warm colors. And by that, I mean colors that have more of a yellow or a red or an orangey base to them. And that doesn't just mean wear yellow, orange, and red. It could mean wear more of an off-white rather than a bluey white. Or dye your hair with more of a brassy kind of reddish tone to it as opposed to an ashy grey tone. If you've got cool toned skin, then you're better off wearing cooler colors that have more of a blue, greeny undertone to them. Blues, greens, purples, that sort of thing. More like Arctic white as opposed to warm white. That sort of a deal. Every color in the world apparently has its warm and cool equivalent, including like blue and red. And apparently that's a really great way of figuring out what colors to wear. So how did I interpret this? I interpreted this as I am warm toned, therefore I should avoid things that are cool in tone and wear the ones that are warm. And I should stick with that with my makeup and my hair and everything. And that's kind of what I figured that's getting at. I don't know, that's how I figured it. Wear gold jewelry, I do that anyway, that's good. Would have been particularly awful if I had to switch from gold to silver. Imagine the investment. Whoa. So, got very lucky there. It's kind of how I took that. Next thing in terms of colors is a color scheme. And it seems to be like a fashion tip or a fashion rule that you should have a limited color scheme. And I find this a little bit weird, but apparently a color palette, like a matching color palette for your entire wardrobe. And the reason behind this is so that your clothes will match, so that your style is cohesive. Also because people nowadays are really into this whole minimalism thing, you know, deprive yourself because you're rich enough to do so. I don't know. Capsule wardrobes is the buzzword term within the fashion world from what I can tell right now. And that is having a wardrobe of X number of items. I mean, everyone has a different amount, but it's meant to be a smaller number, and that's all you have. Idea behind it is you buy less, but you buy a higher quality. It's good for the environment. I don't know. There's reasoning behind it, but a big part of making that work is having a limited color scheme. And how you put that together, well, this is the thing. Like, I watched a number of people that recommended this, and they had kind of varying advice. Some of them said choose no more than 5 colors, and some of them said choose no more than 8 colors, or there was numbers all in between and around that realm. And also, pretty much all of them said to have no more than a limited number of bright colors. So most of your colors you want to be neutral colors. Neutral is boring, like white or black or beige. Where you get more neutral tones is by getting a color wheel and choosing the colors that are opposite each other and mixing them to the point where they look kind of browny and not as bright and colorful. And those sorts of olives and khakis and I don't know, they're neutral. So you want most of your palette to be neutral colors and to have no more than, say, one person had none. Some people had 1 bright color. Some people had up to 3 bright colors. So let's go 1 to 3 bright colors and 5 to 8 total colors in your color palette. And that's kind of all you're meant to have in your color palette, right? And so that's kind of how you're meant to put it together. Consider your skin tone while you're doing it. So if you have a cool skin tone, pick the ones that work with the cool skin tone, etc. And I put together my own. I put together my own color palette, and I did this because, you know, I wanted to follow the rules and the people who know what they're doing. I really like the color yellow, so obviously that was going to be on there, and I like the color orange, so that was going to be on there. I always paint my nails like this blue color, so I put that on there. I'm like, oh, I've run out of colors now. So then I put black and white and gray, and then I was like, all right, I guess that's it. That's kind of how I took it. And supposedly whenever I go shopping, I take along my color scheme and I just buy those colors, and then I'll get a nice cohesive wardrobe. The next category is patterns. Now, the main kind of fashion tip, rule, thing that seems to be associated with patterns is that you're better off without them. Simply that if you have flat colors, especially in the neutral tones, then it's always going to look classier. It's not going to go out of season. It's going to be more everlasting and enduring. It's going to make you look more mature, sophisticated, perhaps even affluent. And apparently people are less likely to notice that you're wearing the same thing over and over again, probably because it's so boring that their brain decided that it wasn't worth noting down. So the idea is that if you get certain patterns, people will notice them. They'll see when you wear them over and over again and think, oh, that person only has one shirt, one pair of tights. I hope they clean them, etc. And you're better off with the flat colors. So I figured, okay, that's simple enough to do. I can do that. And I was like, wouldn't that be dull? And they're like, in the videos and things, they kept saying things like, if you get different types of fabric, the different, I guess, textures and different types of pieces, long shirts, flowy shirts, short shirts, then you'll get variety that way. And I'm like, okay. So I got together my color scheme and I went out there and I got some flat white shirts and yellow shirts. One was cotton, one was linen. I'm like, all right, I'm doing this great. By the way, I didn't go shopping. I went to my mum and I was like, Mom, you got the flat colored shirts. I'm on a budget, okay? And my mum has a lot of shirts and she's more than willing for me to borrow some. Okay, next up, after patterns, we've got body shapes. This is a category I found really, really disturbing. Feel free to give your comments on this, because body shape in the fashion industry, I can't imagine anyone would be satisfied. It's almost designed for you to lose. Okay, maybe I'm wrong. Okay, let me go into them. The first obvious tip that many people know of, I knew about this even before I'd started on my journey, is that essentially dark colors, especially black, are slimming. And also, some people say black is the most flattering color, because obviously it's very flattering when you're very slim and non-seeable. Ninja attire, ultimate fashion. So the idea is that with clothing, you've got light and dark. You've got the surface areas and you've got the shadows. And by using darker colors, you're playing with that. By using darker colors, people can't see your lumps and bumps because it's already a shadow color. If you put a darker color around certain areas, it will make them look smaller. If you put a lighter color, it will make them look bigger. So for example, if you want your top half to look smaller and your bottom half to look bigger, put your top half in like a dark sort of shirt or something, and your bottom half in light tights or pants or skirt. And then that'll theoretically do it. This is how I interpreted that. Essentially, your body needs fixing because there's something wrong with it, so you can fix it with colors. The next big tip is to dress for your body shape. And that's because all of us as humans are different shapes. It's very exciting, it's wonderful, it's great, it helps us tell each other apart, it makes us all unique, wonderful, beautiful snowflakes in this winter wonderland. And it's really great. We have different shapes. The main way people seem to measure the different types is by slicing us in 3. hypothetically, not actually with a knife or something, because that's messy and disgusting and we shouldn't do that. It's murder, it's illegal, and not very enjoyable. Not that I've ever done it. It made me sound like I just murdered someone. I've never murdered anyone. The point is, you're meant to measure yourself on your hips, your waist, and your bust. And then if your waist is smaller than your bust and your hips, but your bust and your hips are the same sort of size, the waist is smaller, you are an hourglass. This appears, from what I vaguely researched, to be kind of like the coveted shape that everyone wants to be, for whatever reason, because we need to have one of those in every category. We need to have the eye color, hair color, everything that everyone wants to be, just so everyone else can feel inadequate. But hourglass shape, if your top is smaller than your hips, then you're a pear shape. If your top is bigger than your hips, then you're an upside down pear. If your waist is bigger, you're an apple. You can also have, bigger bust, bigger waist, smaller hips. You're like a deformed apple. I don't know. There's categories. You can look these up. I tried to look it up myself. I put measuring tape around myself. It was really awkward and felt really uncomfortable. And I figured out that I am somewhere within the hourglass realm. Because this bit and the hip bit are apparently pretty much the same, and the waist is smaller. However, according to the size measurements of certain websites, my waist is not small enough. So I'm more like a rectangle in terms of the fashion world than an hourglass. Because in order to be an hourglass, my waist needs to be smaller. I don't know. What I interpreted this as in the end is that my body needs fixing because there's something wrong with it. The next category is just general tips, where you wear certain outfits to make certain parts of your body look exaggerated or minimized. For example, high-waisted skirts and jeans make your legs look longer. Heels make your butt look bigger. V-necks make your cleavage more prominent. Whereas, crop top turtlenecks make your boobs look bigger. Things like that. And I mean, these are all just different tricks and tips to make certain things look better or worse according to this, supposed standard that's set out there for this ideal human form that may or may not exist. And all I really gathered from this is that your body needs fixing and there's something wrong with it. The last category is oversized clothing. Oversized clothing apparently makes you look slimmer and can hide things that you want hidden. So this is kind of what I settled with in the end. Clearly my body needs fixing because there's something wrong with it, so I might as well just wear oversized clothes so people can't see it. But yeah, we live in a strange world when it comes to body shapes. There seems to be a weird obsession with having very slim body shapes, but also kind of it's strange. There's a strange kind of tendency to want a certain set of characteristics that don't seem to line up very well, or at least seem to require a very, very specific and rare body type. Maybe I'm wrong. Feel free to correct me. But that's what I gathered. And honestly, I couldn't take an awful lot from that. Anyway, the next category is quality. And the idea behind quality is that you buy less, but you spend more on higher quality pieces. So you have less pieces of clothing in your wardrobe, but the ones that you do have cost you more and are of a higher quality. And I think that the why behind this is largely built on you want better durability, you want something to be more sustainable in terms of how it was made, was eco-friendly, and it wasn't by flogging children in a poor country where factories just randomly burn down and huge massive populations of child abuse just go up in ash. And also that, you get better quality designs and fabrics, and you're actually pretty sure that everyone along the food chain in terms of the whole kind of conception of the product, design of the product, manufacturing of the product, etc. was paid fairly. And I kind of really like the concept behind this one. But if I'm going to be honest, I mean, I'll get to my adjudication of this later on. The way to do it, let's stick with that. The way to do it is to cut out fast fashion. Fast fashion is kind of a non-endearing term applied to those sorts of outlets that constantly churn new styles of clothing that they're able to produce in very short periods of time, sell very quickly, and then go out of stock and produce new items of clothing. They create trends, and people constantly need to buy more. The clothing usually falls apart because it's not of a super high quality because it was made so quickly, and usually from cheaper materials, often by, again, children in terrible conditions, or at least factory workers that aren't well looked after, and often in third world countries not getting paid an awful lot. So that's trying to cut out fast fashion, checking the tags on your clothing to see that they're using better quality fabric. So basically using things like cotton, wool, or linen, as opposed to things like polyester or nylon or some other form of plastic. So you want the non-plastic clothing that's made fairly, etc. And okay, so my interpretation of this was basically, I need to hit up my mum's wardrobe because I probably cannot afford to invest in this sort of clothing when I'm still trying to figure out what I'm after, if that makes sense. Maybe if I knew exactly what I wanted, like I was like, I really need a white striped t-shirt with a collar, then I would go after that, and I'd be able to plunk down the $100 and something required to get that in silk. But if I don't know what I'm doing, first of all, I'm experimenting here. I'm not going to experiment for $100 on a silk blouse. It's just not going to happen. I don't have that money. Honestly, I don't know whether I could justify getting a shirt for $100 in general. Whoa, scary stuff. And the alternative is thrifting. Thrifting is the kind of buzzword used for this. I look at it as scrounging for cheap stuff in op shops, but thrifting is what it's called by the trendy fashion people, and that's essentially looking in secondhand stores and markets for stuff that doesn't smell too bad, that isn't too stained, that could potentially be worn without disgusting the public. And really, honestly, I feel like this whole buy less and spend more on higher quality items thing, there are two sides to this coin. There is, yes, the good side that this is promoting healthier practices within the fashion industry. Like, I 100% agree with that, but let's be frank here. Just because something costs more, it doesn't mean it's better. It really doesn't. And I mean, quality in terms of fabrics is not the be all and end all. There's other things that go behind quality. I'm sure a lot of fashion people will yell at me and say, that's not what we meant. But there's a lot more to it than that. There's also, this is a great marketing tool. Like this for me seems to be a really great way to push people that already enjoy fashion into spending higher amounts of money, if that makes sense. Buy less, but spend more. Kind of sounds to me like spend more on clothing, on maybe more luxury brands or something along those lines. So I'm worried that it's actually a marketing ploy, especially because even a lot of luxury brands, even Prada or these big name people, they make clothes in polyester and from cheap clothing, and just because something has a fancy label on it, it doesn't preclude it from falling apart, fitting poorly, going out of fashion, things like that. So I don't know whether spending more is the best way to go about it. Looking for higher quality pieces is way too vague as well. I mean, that means so many different things to so many different people. But I mean, I like the overall concept of that thing. What I gathered from it is, okay, if I want to be having higher quality things, maybe I just got to go to mum and be like, Mom, I need to get those shirts with the plain shirts with the plain colors. Okay, so now we've ended up at the end of this particular leg of the journey, and I really tried my hardest to incorporate all these things. Honestly, I got really caught up in it. And it felt like I was watching a whole lot of people telling me that I'm doing everything wrong. As someone that's just not been a part of this world, that's honestly all it felt like. It felt like a whole lot of people telling me everything I do is wrong and I need to go spend a huge amount of money on clothing that's boring to me. in terms of what it looks like, and just limit myself endlessly. And really, it felt like a chore. It felt like I was doing work, but I felt guilty, like I've done everything wrong and I need to fix myself. So that's kind of where I ended up. And I did change up my wardrobe. I had a very limited number of colors. It was mostly really boring ones. It was my color scheme. Very plain items. Pretty much everything there was flat colors, because that's supposedly the good thing, flat colors. And mostly oversized stuff in the end, and that was not just because of the body shape thing, although I'm sure that was in the back of my mind, but also just because I was mostly grabbing stuff from my mom, and that stuff runs a little large on me. And in the end, it was a huge time investment, and really it will be a huge time investment. To take that route seemed like it would be a huge time and money investment. Money, not so much, just because I don't think that's something I could afford. I feel like my only option in this situation would be to go thrifting to op shops. If I want to get a silk blouse for $100 and something, which is kind of how much these things seem to cost, and I need to fill my entire wardrobe with these things because I've never owned a silk blouse in my life, never mind an entire cupboard full of that sort of clothing, it just felt like a bit much. So overall, I felt really uninspired, and I had my wardrobe set up with my mum's clothes, and I tried to put outfits together every day. And this is something that I wasn't used to doing too much, because back when I only had tights and t-shirts, I would just choose a pair of tights, which was easy. It was usually the one at the top, and then choose a shirt that vaguely matched it, and that was it. Now I had to lay down the skirt, lay down the stockings, lay down the shirt, lay down the jacket, swap out the shirt. Okay, that'll do, I guess. I don't know. What am I looking for here? And then look in the mirror, and I just felt boring. Over and over again, every day, boring. And I turned around to my husband and I said to him, am I doing something wrong? What did I mess up here? I don't know what I messed up. And then my husband said to me, maybe you need to have more accessories, like, jewelry or hats or something along those lines. And I started looking into that. And quite honestly, when I looked up fashion stuff, the sort of results I got were the ones that I was talking about previously in this video. When I looked up accessories, I started getting results from fashion vloggers and things who seem to have more experimental and quirky styles. And they didn't follow any of these rules or mention any of these rules whatsoever. And I started to think, perhaps, maybe these choices shouldn't be following rules, but maybe they depend on your situation. For example, if you are a minimalist, then maybe you want everything to have flat colors and you want everything to be simple. And maybe you'll only have a closet with 10 items of clothing that you oscillate between endlessly. Maybe if you are a rich person, then you want to have clothes that have brand names on them. You want to carry a handbag that clearly states that it's from an expensive label. Maybe you want to dress in neutral tones so people think that you are wealthier and more put together within that particular circle that you operate in. But perhaps if you're a creative person, like a musician or an artist or someone that's trying to push boundaries, perhaps none of those rules really do apply and they actually lead you down the wrong path altogether. So really, I kind of felt like my takeaway was that these rules or tips don't have to be followed all at once or even at all, depending on your situation and your goals. Now, the other thing that I took away from this is that if it's not fun, and if it's not playing around and being creative with clothing, fashion can be genuinely painful. It can be really painful. And by this, I don't mean just me hating my body and things, though there is elements of that. But also just, there's such an immense mass number of items out there and shops. You could scroll for the rest of eternity and you would never stop scrolling because it's just endless. It's not like looking up a guitar or a flute where there's a limited number of types. There's just so much out there. It can be really unpleasant. In the end, I figured what you wear is kind of like a costume. A costume dressing up to show the world who you are. Rules, tips, all of that, again, can be something you take into consideration. Sorry, I keep having coughing fits because I've been speaking for so long, so I will wrap this up soon. But maybe you want to change what your body shape looks like. Maybe you want to stick with your color scheme so that you've got a cohesive wardrobe, or you want to emphasize your warm-toned or cool-toned skin. And that's completely your call in whatever situation you're in. But in the end, I think keep it fun, enjoy it, play around with it, have fun with it, know your own goals. And I don't think these rules or tips or anything should detract from that. The enjoyment, the creativity, your own purpose and your own actual goal within this whole finding your look thing. And that's kind of where I've ended up. I'd love to know your thoughts. I know I've been rambling for a really long time because I've just had like 3 coughing fits. But I would love to know your thoughts on this, on colors, patterns, body shapes, quality, all of these things, these fashion tips and tricks, and just what you think of it all in general. Thank you for watching. I'm gonna go drink like a whole ton of water and maybe collapse now. That was a long vlog. Thank you for watching my video. If you liked it, I would love for you to hit down that subscribe button and also the bell notification button so you can be notified in future when I put up videos. Also, I'd love to do a massive shout out for everyone who is a part of Ninja Club. Your support and encouragement is absolutely invaluable. Thank you so very much. If you're a fan of what I do, I encourage you to check out Ninja Club. There is a link at the top of the description box, and have a wonderful rest of your day. You rock all the Lego blocks.